Meaning exists not in things, but in their relationships. Language shapes reality more than reality shapes language. We do not speak language. Language speaks through us. Every sign gains meaning from what it is not. Structure is the hidden order behind apparent chaos. Human thought follows patterns deeper than awareness. Culture is a system of signs waiting to be decoded. Nothing has meaning in isolation. Words are symbols, not reality itself. The system defines the parts, not the other way around. Meaning is born through difference, not similarity. Reality is filtered through structures of understanding. Every narrative follows an invisible grammar. The surface hides the structure beneath. What we see is shaped by unseen frameworks. Knowledge is constructed through systems, not discovered alone. Identity exists within a network of relations. Signs point to other signs, not to absolute truth. Culture organizes the way we perceive the world. Structure governs meaning more than intention. Language is a system of differences without positive terms. Thought is limited by the structure of language. The mind categorizes before it understands. Myths reveal universal structures of human thinking. Every system carries its own logic. Interpretation depends on position within the structure. Meaning shifts when structure changes. Symbols derive power from their place in the system. What is absent is as meaningful as what is present. Structure gives stability to meaning. Communication is the play of signs within a system. No meaning exists outside of context. Systems create boundaries for understanding. Structure precedes experience. Reality is mediated through symbolic systems. Language constructs the limits of thought. Every concept exists through contrast. The deeper truth lies beneath the surface form. Structures repeat across cultures in different forms. Meaning is relational, not absolute. Signs do not mirror reality. They organize it. Structure is the architecture of meaning. The mind seeks patterns even in randomness. Systems govern interpretation unconsciously. Cultural codes shape perception. Meaning is produced, not found. Every structure hides its own assumptions. Thought operates within invisible frameworks. Language is a map, not the territory. Understanding begins when patterns are recognized. Meaning emerges from patterns, not from isolated elements. Every system hides rules that shape understanding. Structure is the silent organizer of thought. What appears natural is often constructed. Signs gain value through opposition. Understanding requires seeing relationships, not objects. The visible world rests on invisible frameworks. Thought follows structures it cannot fully see. Meaning is never fixed. It depends on position. Systems define what can be known. Language does not reflect reality, it rearranges it. Structures persist, even when elements change. Every code carries a deeper logic. Reality is interpreted through learned systems. Patterns repeat, because the mind seeks order. Meaning exists between elements, not within them. Systems guide perception without awareness. Culture is a network of interconnected meanings. Words gain meaning through contrast and context. Nothing is meaningful outside a structure. Structure is the framework that gives form to chaos. The mind organizes before it understands. Every meaning depends on what surrounds it. Language limits and enables thought at once. Systems are the foundation of knowledge. What we call truth is often structured meaning. Interpretation changes when the system shifts. Structure shapes both thought and expression. Sins exist only within a system of relations. Meaning flows through networks, not single points. Every element is defined by its difference. Structures are invisible but powerful. Meaning is constructed through interaction. Systems give order to human experience. Language creates boundaries for reality. Understanding grows through recognizing patterns. Structure organizes what appears random. Meaning is always part of a larger system. Thought is guided by hidden frameworks. Systems influence meaning more than intention. Nothing speaks alone. Everything is part of a system. Structure exists beneath every form of expression. Meaning depends on arrangement, not just content. Every sign refers to other signs. Systems shape the limits of interpretation. Reality is filtered through symbolic order. Patterns reveal the structure of thought. Meaning is dynamic within fixed systems. Structure is the foundation of all communication. To understand anything, understand its system. Structure defines possibility before choice appears. Meaning is shaped by position within a system. Every system creates its own truth. The mind reads patterns before it sees objects. What we call reality is already interpreted. Structure is the grammar of existence. Signs organize thought more than thought organizes signs. Systems remain even when meanings shift. Nothing exists outside relational meaning. Understanding begins with recognizing differences. Meaning depends on contrast, not essence. Every framework limits what can be understood. Structure turns randomness into coherence. Interpretation is guided by unseen rules. Systems shape knowledge silently. Every idea belongs to a larger network. Meaning changes when relationships change. Structure is the condition of understanding. The mind decodes patterns, not reality itself. Every symbol belongs to a system of meaning. Meaning arises through opposition and relation. Structure exists before interpretation begins. Systems organize perception without permission. Language frames the limits of experience. Every concept is defined by what it excludes. Meaning is never independent of context. Structures give identity to elements. Systems determine what is thinkable. Thought is shaped by linguistic patterns. Every structure carries internal rules. Meaning is produced within boundaries. Structure creates order from abstraction. Nothing is understood without comparison. Systems control interpretation more than intention. Language is a system of structured differences. Meaning evolves within fixed frameworks. Structure holds meaning together. Every sign is part of a chain of references. Systems stabilize understanding. Meaning is relational at its core. Structure defines both presence and absence. Interpretation depends on structural position. Systems shape both knowledge and ignorance. Meaning exists within patterns of relation. Structure is the unseen architecture of thought. Every framework carries hidden assumptions. Systems determine what is visible and invisible. Meaning shifts with structural change. Language orders experience into categories. Structure defines how reality is perceived. Structure exists before meaning is recognized. Every system shapes how truth appears. Meaning is never outside its structure. What we perceive is already organized. Structure governs both thought and expression. Every relation defines what something is. Systems create order within perception. Meaning is not fixed, only positioned. Structure determines how signs function. Understanding comes from mapping relations. Every system imposes limits on meaning. Meaning is formed through contrast and absence. Structures guide thought silently. Reality is processed through symbolic systems. Systems exist beneath conscious awareness. Meaning shifts when context shifts. Structure is the hidden logic of language. Nothing exists independently of its relations. Every meaning is part of a structured whole. Systems shape perception before judgment. Meaning arises from connections, not isolation. Structure organizes experience into patterns. Every concept depends on difference. Systems determine how meaning flows. Language arranges reality into forms. Structure precedes understanding. Every sign belongs to a relational network. Meaning exists within structured boundaries. Systems stabilize interpretation. Structure is the condition for communication. Meaning depends on arrangement, not substance. Every framework creates its own logic. Systems organize what can be known. Structure connects all elements into meaning. Meaning exists through interaction. Every system defines its own limits. Structure shapes both knowledge and belief. Systems give form to thought. Meaning is constructed within relations. Structure underlies all perception. Every element is defined by its position. Systems shape how meaning is produced. Structure gives consistency to interpretation. Meaning is always contextual. Every sign reflects its place in a system. Systems determine patterns of understanding. Structure exists within every expression. Meaning arises through structured difference. Systems influence perception continuously. To see clearly is to see structure. Structure frames meaning before it is understood. Every system shapes how reality is interpreted. Meaning is produced through relations, not objects. What appears natural is often structured. Systems define what can be expressed. Meaning depends on position within a framework. Structure organizes perception into order. Every sign exists within a network. Systems guide thought beneath awareness. Meaning is never independent of its system. Structure determines how differences create meaning. Every framework carries rules of interpretation. Meaning is relational at every level. Systems define boundaries of understanding. Structure shapes how reality is categorized. Every element gains identity through contrast. Meaning shifts when structural relations shift. Systems stabilize patterns of thought. Structure is the foundation of interpretation. Meaning emerges from structured interaction. Every system imposes order on experience. Structure defines what is visible and invisible. Meaning is constructed within limits. Systems influence perception without awareness. Structure connects all meanings into a whole. Every sign depends on others to exist. Meaning is never isolated. Systems organize knowledge into patterns. Structure shapes both language and thought. Meaning exists within relational boundaries. Every framework determines how truth appears. Structure precedes interpretation. Systems guide how meaning is formed. Meaning is shaped by context and relation. Structure defines the limits of communication. Every sign is part of a structured chain. Systems give coherence to understanding. Meaning evolves within fixed systems. Structure governs how ideas connect. Meaning is always part of a larger pattern. Every system creates its own logic. Structure organizes difference into meaning. Meaning depends on how elements relate. Systems influence what can be thought. Structure defines the rules of perception. Every concept exists through relation. Meaning is shaped by unseen frameworks. Systems guide interpretation continuously. Structure holds meaning together. To understand meaning is to understand structure. Structure defines meaning before awareness begins. Every system shapes how reality is organized. Meaning arises from patterns, not isolated facts. What seems obvious is often constructed. Systems determine what can be understood. Meaning is formed through relational difference. Structure orders perception into coherence. Every sign exists within a structured field. Systems guide thought silently and continuously. Meaning cannot exist outside its framework. Structure creates the conditions for interpretation. Every framework filters what is perceived. Meaning is produced through contrast. Systems define limits of knowledge. Structure shapes how truth is recognized. Every element depends on its relations. Meaning shifts with structural change. Systems stabilize understanding through repetition. Structure is the invisible logic of meaning. Meaning exists within organized relations. Every system constructs its own reality. Structure determines how ideas connect. Meaning is relational, never absolute. Systems shape perception before awareness. Structure organizes the flow of thought. Every sign gains meaning through difference. Meaning depends on structural position. Systems define patterns of interpretation. Structure frames experience into categories. Meaning emerges from interaction. Every framework creates boundaries of thought. Structure connects elements into systems. Meaning is shaped by unseen relations. Systems influence both perception and belief. Structure governs interpretation at every level. Every concept is defined by contrast. Meaning is constructed within systems. Systems organize knowledge into forms. Structure shapes the limits of expression. Meaning depends on context and relation. Every system orders reality into patterns. Structure defines how meaning is formed. Meaning is never independent of structure. Systems guide the interpretation of experience. Structure holds patterns together. Every sign reflects its place in a system. Meaning arises from structured interaction. Systems shape the boundaries of understanding. Structure defines both presence and absence. To understand anything is to see its structure.